and welcome to another booktube video from me, Lauren from Lauren and the Books. You know, on days when you don't do anything with your hair, look, this is the best my hair's looked in bloody weeks. I've literally done nothing with it all day, and now look at it, I'm like a bloody film star. Today, sorry, when I finished looking at myself in the viewfinder, today is the next in my edition of Lit Chat. So this is a little box of cards which have discussion topics on the back, all to do with books and reading and things like this. I should make a playlist of these books, really, videos really, and this, Lauren, is your reminder. Make a playlist with all of the videos that you have done so far discussing the Lit Chats. We're at episode number 6 now, imagine. Focus on back on me and my wonderful hair. And today I'm quite excited about this one because I quite like watching videos like this myself. The book is Crime and Punishment, and the question on the back says thusly: what is the worst book you've ever read? Did you finish it? Why were you reading it in the first place? And then the second part of that question is there a book you refuse to read because you know you'll just hate it? Why? I love this sort of stuff. So we'll start with the first part, because if we're talking about books that I've actually finished that I hated, I've got 2. So the first book is, what is the worst book you've ever read? Did you finish it? Why were you reading it in the first place? So I'll go on to 2 that I did finish, and then I've got 1, and neither of these are from this year either, so they've really stayed with me. The first one is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. That will not come as a surprise to many people because I did quite a video of just how crap I thought it was, basically. So this was a book that was going around on BookTube. I don't think it was last year, I think it might have been the year before, and like there was so much hype about it, and I was so looking forward to reading it. It was about female friendship between a girl, Eleanor, and her friend whose name I can't even remember. I want to say Lillian, but I can't be sure. And there was so much hype about it. So many people were reading it, people whose views on books I was like, oh my god, I'm going to adore this book. I honestly thought, shush now. It's David, what does he say? He's going to be home about 6:30. People I thought I would like that shared the same views as me, and I was just thinking, this is the book for me. So already it's quite high level in my head. I bought it and read it and just was so disappointed. I remember the whole way through being like, what? I just found it dull. I found the description lacking. I didn't feel like I was there. All I'd heard about is how amazing it was and how it would really transport you to, I want to say 1960s Italy, and I just found it dull, and was so disappointed. And I think probably that's my biggest disappointment of books that I've read that I've then gone on to hate. And I did finish it and I gave it 1 star, and I was so nervous about doing a review about it because so many people had loved it that I was really nervous that like it would just be like I'd be the only person there. But then when I did that review, god, I've got a feeling it's a really dark video as well. It was when we just moved in here. I mean, I didn't have proper lights or anything, and I used to film at night without proper lights. What was I thinking? And yeah, it was just and I just thought it was crap. And luckily Mercedes hated it too. I think like that's when Mercedes and I just first started talking. So bonded over the hatred of My Brilliant Friend. So that was the first one, and I read that because there was just so much hype about it on BookTube, and I just thought that is going to be something that I love, and I didn't. I thought it was shit. And then another one that I read, oh god, I can't even remember the person's name. So there's a genre in general that I just do not get on with, and this book is from that genre. And the genre is women's contemporary fiction. And I'll probably use this as my the second answer to this, is that I'm just never going to pick up any women's contemporary fiction again. But this one in particular. So I run a book club on Facebook with some friends, people that I know in real life. And it started getting like a few people, David, I know you're going to be home at 6:30. Shush now, I'll turn it off guys, so it's just me and you. So I started running this book club, and a few people said, oh, my friend wants to join, which was completely fine. So somebody that I knew joined the book club, and I can't even remember what book it was that we were discussing at Christmas, and she said, oh, please, let me give you a recommendation. So I was like, oh, okay, and this is like early days in BookTube. I'd literally been on BookTube like 6 months. So I had quite a few recommendations sort of coming my way and things like that, and I was like, oh yeah, definitely. And I cannot remember what this book was called. That's how much it meant to me. It was something like Christmas at something. So it's like, what you can imagine it like Christmas at in New York, or Chris, like you can see the front cover. I can't remember the author or anything. I read it on my Kindle. I could probably have a look now, but I'm not even going to be bothered because that's how much I hated it. And it was about a girl who had found out on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day that her husband had been cheating on her, and she had 3 friends who coincidentally lived on different corners of the earth. One lived in New York, one lived in the UK, and one lived in Paris. And she went and spent 6 months with each, no, not 6 months, because it was, she went and spent 4 months with each of those friends to help her get over her the breakup of her husband. And while she was in that 4-month period, she had a haircut, she got this really highfalutin paid job in whatever thing that she turned out to be good at. I think it was like interior design, fashion, cookery, and she found a man in those 4 months that she had a really intensio relationship with. And I was just reading this like, I can't believe this. And the person who'd recommended it to me was constantly saying, oh, how are you getting on with that book? Do you really, really like it? And I was just like, I just felt like being polite and saying, oh yeah, it's fine. But I hated it. And it was just so like, just so annoying that in order for a woman to get over a man, she has to go to some other place and get with another man. And just, it's just so coincidental that she just had this haircut, made herself feel so much better. And that is in general one of the reasons I don't read women's contemporary fiction, because every single women's contemporary fiction book I've read has been a woman getting over something, getting over normally a man leaving her by getting with another man, or having a sort of like, oh god, which man shall I pick between these two? So it's normally like someone who's getting like engaged but then turns out not to be getting engaged, or someone who's getting married and then turns out not to get married, someone who's in love with someone and then turns out that they're cheating on them, and then they don't, then she goes on like a journey and meets somebody else who is always a man and gets with that person. And I just feel like that is not life, guys. Number one. And not that you have to read things that are really like all about life and true to life and things like that, but it's just so sickly sweet and just so daft. And I just feel like I spent a lot of time when I was before I found my reading place, reading that sort of what I think is shit, and just I've just never recovered. So for the second part of that question is there a book you refuse to read just because you know you'll hate it? Why? Basically all women's contemporary fiction. If anyone, and I can't even be sure that I'm going to read it because the chances are I won't, but if you've read a women's contemporary fiction book which isn't a woman getting fucked over by a man and then getting with another man after having to pick from 2 very different, one's in a band and one's a geek, that sort of shit, man, then I'd be interested in hearing it, because I've just read one too many of those fucking books and they get on my wick. So I would be very, very interested to hear people's worst books that they've ever read. Another book that I've read, and I did say I'd mention this as well, I read a book this year, I listened to the audiobook of it, it's called The Chalk Man by CJ Tudor, which is another book that's been quite beloved on BookTube. I've seen quite a few people enjoying it. I listened to the audiobook of this because it was narrated by Andrew Scott, who is the actor who plays Moriarty in Sherlock. He's one of my favourite actors ever. I just think he's absolutely incredible. He's been in a few bits. What did we? Oh, Pride. He's in Pride, which is one of my favourite films. And yeah, he's just amazing. And he's a really good voice actor as well. I've listened to a Audible Originals drama where he plays MI5 agent in it, and he was really good in that, and I thought, well, I'll give this a go because I really love his voice and think he's a really good voice actor. And I hated that too, so that was one that I hated. God, this is a moany video, isn't it? But everyone likes a bit of a moan about books sometimes. So yeah, that was called The Chalk Man, and it was about a young, so this character, Eddie, the young version of him was narrated by Asa Butterfield, who is a English young man, and the adult version was narrated by Andrew Scott, who is Irish. So already there was sort of like discrepancies going on anyway, which like then it was about a murder that took place when they were younger, and someone went to jail for it who didn't do it, and it was just like, I just felt like the violence in it was really gratuitous and just sort of like stuck in there. It didn't need to be as grim and rank as it was. The ending was so bizarre. There was actually one of the characters at the end of the book said, oh, there's an awful lot of plot holes here, isn't there? And I was like, too bloody right there is. And if a character's having to say, oh, isn't there a lot of plot holes, to make up for the amount of plot holes in it, it just seemed bizarre to me. So I really didn't like that either, but I did finish that one, and that was just because I was listening to the audiobook, and I gave that 1 star as well. So those are 3 of my most memorable 1-star books that I have recently read. Would be very, very interested for you guys to join the discussion. I do like discussions like this. Mercedes is going to love this video because she loves to rant about a book. I'll read the question out again and I will put it in the description down below, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. But the question is, what is the worst book you've ever read? Did you finish it? Why were you reading it in the first place? And the second part of that question is there a book you refuse to read because you know you'll just hate it, and why? And I would just like to add, as a sort of extra of that, is there a genre that you guys know that you'll hate and you avoid it at all costs? Because mine is women's contemporary fiction, and would love to hear what your guys is. So that is it from me. I hope you're all having a lovely Saturday so far, and I will see you all again soon for another booktube video.